So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Jackie Collier, who's director at Aireworth Property Services. So, firstly, Jackie, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that'd be wonderful.
Fabulous. So, firstly, thank you for the invite, Chris. It's
Very
very nice
welcome.
to be here. So, yes, I'm Jackie, and the company's called Aireworth Property Services, of which we have a another brand within that company called Pro Sports Property Partners. So, for both of the brands, what we do is help people who literally have got very little time, but they have some finances that really isn't working very hard for them.
Yeah,
It might be sitting in the bank, and at the moment, interest rates from the point of view of savings aren't great.
yeah,
So people aren't getting a good return. Inflation's very high and rising because of things going on in the world
yeah,
that are affecting people's savings. So what we want to do is to work with people where they are in this situation. They want their money to work harder for them. They want to prepare for their future, for their retirement in a lot of cases.
yeah,
And some just their pensions aren't sufficient to support them in that future
yeah.
time. So we help them basically invest in property. So there are a lot of investment vehicles out there. There's crypto, there's stocks and shares, there's property. The beauty of property is that it's far, far less volatile
Yeah.
than the other vehicles available. But also they get the benefit of leverage. So if you've got £100,000 that you've got to invest, you put it into crypto, you've got £100,000 worth of crypto. You put it in stocks and shares, you've got £100,000 worth of stocks and shares. You put it into property because you can leverage mortgages effectively, forgetting the fees and such like, you can virtually have £400,000 worth of assets available to you.
Great.
So if you think about your asset growing, if each of those assets grows, let's say 5%, in a year, crypto, you make five grand, stocks and shares, you make 5 grand. But in property, you've got four times the asset, you're making 20 grand on your 100 because bank's money is never changing. And that's one of the beauties of property. So not only have you got more stability because it's a lot slower moving asset, you've also got the benefit of that leverage to increase your particular investment
Yes.
much faster. So because of all that, it is a great way for people to invest. And people think, oh, I need to have a lot of money to invest in property. Actually, we're not encouraging people to buy property in cash. You don't need the 100,000. Really, if you've got 50, we can get you an investment property that's not only increasing in value, you're getting rental income, and rents do go up. You
Yeah.
know, you have three ways to earn money. So we're really wanting to get people understanding how property investment can help them through those three ways to prepare for their future.
Brilliant.
And when you look at the sports people and people in a similar kind of role, their career is very, very short.
Yes.
What I like to call normal people, we leave school, we leave university, we start a job on a maybe not the greatest of salaries, and we build up and we get a bit more income and we spend a bit more because we buy another house, we buy a better car, all of those things. But we work until we're in our 60s, and then
Yeah.
we hope we've got a good enough pension and we're in a position to live what's rest of our life, maybe 20, 30, 40 years if you're lucky.
Yes.
Compare that to people in sport. The people who are really good, who are getting into like Premiership football or golf or tennis, they might be 18. And suddenly they've gone from nothing to earning huge amounts of money,
Yes.
and they don't necessarily get the best advice.
Yeah.
They earn that money for a relatively short amount of time, maybe 20 years, if they don't get injured.
Yeah.
And now they've got 60 years. that money's got to last them. So again, what we're trying to do with sports people is help them do that investment early. So
Brilliant.
they're getting that capital growth and that rental income. So when they do come to retire, they're not suddenly, I've got no money coming in and I've been living a 100 grand a week lifestyle and
Yes.
now I'm on the dole.
Yeah.
Do they still call it on the dole? But you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've no idea, but I would suspect that's good enough.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So, I mean, obviously, there's quite a broad range of people that you could work with. But what would you say makes a great client for you? Which sort of what sort of demographic would you typically feel that would get best value from you?
Okay. So the ones in that kind of scenario are those people really who they just don't have the time
Yes.
to
Got you.
investigate investing in
Yes.
property to learn how to do it properly.
Yep.
And whilst property is a very good investment, you can make mistakes.
Yep.
And one of the big mistakes, particularly for sports people, is that they buy planned apartments in city centres that don't necessarily make them the money that they think they're going to make
Yep. Okay.
because a lot of off-plan stuff don't get built. They think they're getting a deal because they're getting a discount on the off-plan. The reality is, once they're built, if they get built, then they actually aren't often worth what they've been told they're going to be worth.
Right. Yep.
There's a lot happening in city centres, so there's a saturation.
Yep.
They then don't get the rent that they expect to get. And with apartments, you've got service charges, you've got
Yes.
ground rent, you've got a lot of extra costs that eat into your cash flow. So not only are you paying a mortgage, you're paying those other costs on top. So the rent that you're getting is now reduced by mortgage payments and service charges and ground rent. So you just don't get the income you expect to get. And they don't increase in value either at the same rate as houses.
Right.
So on so many levels, if people take nothing away from this, please just take away, do not buy off-plan property or off-plan flats at least.
Yes.
If it's something you're going to live in as your own home, it's not an investment, it's different. You buy from the heart. But if you're buying investment, it needs to be a head decision. So we want to help those people who don't have the time to learn all that.
Yep.
They're busy doctors, dentists, opticians, accountants, lawyers, people who are earning really good salaries
Yeah.
cannot make their money work for them as well as they want. Maybe if they're working all those hours, missing out on the kids growing up, they're missing out on that freedom of choice and time
Yes.
because they're so busy.
Yeah.
If we can help them get more income through a different vehicle, then not only do they get better prepared for the future, they also just get a better quality of life now.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's yeah, a very um I think a very attractive, clearly attractive way of looking to invest in things that we I guess the normal person understands a bit about property because they live in one themselves, etc. But it's you've highlighted that point of yeah, there's so much more knowledge, and if we don't have the time, it's so important to use experts, as we do in every field. Whether that's accountants, solicitors, maybe a business coach, whatever it would be. It's working with experts.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so Jackie, maybe if we thank you for sort of being really clear on that. If we look backwards for a little bit, if you could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you, that would be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. So I've done quite a lot of things over the years. It's like I'm at that age now where it's like, I've lived a lot of things and done a lot of things. So when I left school, I went to work for Marks and Spencer. I was a divisional auditor for them for a number of years. Had a great time. Relatively young, driving around company car, auditing the stores up in the north,
Right.
doing projects in head office down in London. I got sent to New York to do projects over in the stores that they bought over there. got sent to Canada to do projects that they did over there. So saw a lot of things, did a
Wow.
lot of things. But then they wanted me to go back down south, which to be fair is where I come from. But when you've lived up north, going back down south, it's a tough move to make,
Yes.
financially, if nothing else.
Yes.
So that didn't really work out. So I left there. Thought, oh, I'll start my own business. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Was absolutely rubbish at it. Was useless. So that didn't really work out. Went and got a job as a finance manager with Hallmark Cards.
Yep.
Worked for them for a while and did a lot of things there in terms of personalised stationery. And I'd always wanted to be involved in weddings in some way. I had this thing about weddings, and I wanted a one-stop shop where I'd got the brides coming for their dresses. We could do the flowers, the cake, the stationery, literally everything apart from the venue.
Brilliant.
And the wedding coordination from them if they wanted it. So that was the dream. Richard Branson beat me to it. How dare
Right.
he?
Yes, of course.
But to be fair, if somebody's going to beat you to it, then Richard Branson's probably a
Yep.
good one to do. He set up Virgin Bride, if anybody
Yes,
remembers Virgin
I do.
Bride. And I thought, right, okay, but it must be a good idea if he's doing it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the thought process. And at the time, I had a baby, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I've got connections through what I was doing personalised stationery. I might as well set up on my own and do that. Um, didn't quite work out at that particular moment. Um, Bizarrely, I bought a cleaning company. Don't ask. It couldn't be so far from me. I mean, honestly, that is not my forte. I hate cleaning. I hate housework. Why? And everybody's going, why have you bought a cleaning company?
Brilliant.
But it was in industrial cleaning, so a
Yep.
slightly different thing. Still the same thing. I wasn't in love with doing it.
No.
Didn't really work out. We did a lot of things. We were doing a cleaning machine for Thornton's chocolates. It all just went pear-shaped. But do you know what? You live and learn.
Yep.
It was pretty crap at the time, but you take the lessons away from it and
Yeah.
think, well, do you know, I've learned from that. I'm not doing that again.
Yes.
And then set up doing the wedding business. So I thought, right, I'll do wedding stationery. I then met a florist. Oh, no, before I met the florist, somebody was selling their balloon company. So we bought the balloon
Right.
company. So we were doing stationery and balloons,
Yep.
going around doing lots of wedding fairs, talking to lots of brides, loved it. Got talking to a florist who was doing something similar. So we might as well do this together. Ended up doing that, got a shop, took over a previous florist shop that was a big interflower shop. I was not a florist. I'd never done flowers in my life. Um, so she was kind of doing that side of it. That also went a bit pear.
Right.
So the lesson from that one was be careful who you trust, be
Yep.
careful who you go into business with. Lessons learned. Uh, Felt left high and dry because I now had a florist shop and no florist.
Yes.
Amazingly, how quickly you can learn to do things you didn't know how to do before.
Brilliant.
And thought, well, I'm not being held ransom by anybody else, so I'll learn to do it. And we continue to be big executors for Interflora. We were doing big area around Bradford, out to sort of Leeds border, out to Skipton border. So quite a big area. Uh, Mother's Day, we would do 350 bouquets on Mother's Day. So it was quite army manoeuvres, shall we say, in terms of
Yeah.
getting delivery drivers in, getting stuff
Yeah.
made, getting it delivered. And loved it, absolutely loved it. We were wedding florists, we were wedding florist awards for some, I don't know, 6, 7 years on the trot. Wedding florist for a lot of the hotels and venues around Bradford. So kind of got the wedding bit there.
Brilliant.
Continued to do the stationery and did that for 10 years, something like that. And it just got to a point where it just got more and more difficult.
Right.
Difficult from the point of view, I had 16 staff at one point. It's tough employing people.
Yep.
It's tough employing people. And my husband was at risk of redundancy. The project, he was an IT manager for a bank. His his project was coming to an end, and he had the opportunity of either taking voluntary redundancy or learning or looking for another job in the bank. Like, what should I do? What should I do? And we're like, take the money. For God's sake, take the money. You hate your job. Excuse me, but you're a miserable bastard. Do something you enjoy.
Brilliant.
You know, there wasn't a lot of money because he'd been a contractor.
Right.
But it was enough. It would see us
Great.
through a year. And we had done, and we'd watched Homes Under the Hammer some years before. We'd done a
Yes.
property. Thought, well, we'll just do that. We'll buy property, do it up, sell
Yep.
it, use that money, buy property, do it up, sell it. Which sounds great in theory, but you have no cash flow.
Right.
So when you're
Yes.
buying it and doing it up, all your money is going in that direction and you have no money to sell it. So it's a bit difficult having something to live on.
Yes.
The universe delivered, here's a course. Do you want to have a look at this? It was a free course for just a 2 hour introduction. He went, he came back, and he's like, it was great. You can't believe all the things you can do. This is amazing. I've signed us up for a 3-day course. Okay. It was £1,000. I'm like, okay. I got a free tablet. Fab. Not an iPad, just a tablet. But we both went on this course and loved it.
Brilliant.
Absolutely were blown away by what you can do in property
Yes.
that we just didn't realize
Yes.
outside of Homes Under the Hammer.
Yeah.
And that for us really set us on a new life. Um, we were like, we're going to do this. I mean, I was 56, Steve was 51. So we weren't exactly spring chickens starting out. But because of our age, it was, well, this has got to work.
Yep.
You know, we paid 27 grand for a course, which was like a fair bit of money
Yes.
then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a fair bit
Absolutely.
of money today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just went, right, we're going to go for it. And we bought 8 properties in our first year.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and trust me, we did not have that money in there, but it was a combination of buying some with a mortgage, doing it up. It was a combination of working with other people who had got money sitting in the bank. They didn't know what they wanted to do with it. They lent it
Yep.
to our business. We gave them a fixed return that was higher than the banks. We bought the properties, refinanced, paid them back and their interest. And to be honest, most of those people are still with us today
Brilliant.
because they're getting more money than they're getting in the bank.
Yep.
So that was kind of how we started our portfolio. Um, we've done all sorts in terms of doing that. And we've done quite a lot of social housing. We then moved on to doing a lot of social housing
Okay. Yep.
because it for us it was, yes, it's a business for us and commercially it's got to work, but it's all been about ethical investing.
Yep.
You know, we want to make sure that the homes that we're doing for people are good quality, comfortable, safe homes that people can live in. And whether that be a private tenant or whether that be through social housing, it's important because we were looking at houses and some of the conditions that people were living in were shocking,
Yes.
absolutely shocking. And that is not what we wanted to be
Yeah.
doing. So yeah, it was about creating good quality homes that people could actually call their home and live in for as long as they want to live in.
Yep.
And we also flipped some, where we bought them, did them up and sold them
Yep.
largely again for first time buyers. So again, people for buying their first house could have a nice home that they could call their own.
Brilliant.
And that's really what we've done for a lot of the time. And
Brilliant.
then we said, well, let's take that thought process and do it for other people, like I said at the
Yes.
beginning,
Brilliant.
who don't have the knowledge, don't have the time to do it themselves, and
Yep.
help them with building their own portfolios and having that income and that wealth creation for their future. And then the next step was we teach it to people. So
Brilliant.
now we actually mentor for a company called Aspire Property Group,
Yep.
Aspire Education. So people come through them. We teach them. The reason we do it for them is we also learn through them as well as a
Yep.
second sort of string of learning. Um, Love the way they teach. It's very ethical again,
Great.
and it's about telling people the truth.
Yep.
You know, you're not doing a course and you're going to be a millionaire next year, or next week, as some people say. Yeah. You might be a millionaire next year if you're very, very lucky and you are literally focused beyond belief.
Yep.
But for most people, it takes a little bit longer than that.
Yes.
Again, it's teaching people how to do it right and learning from the mistakes that we've made.
Yeah. Great.
We've made plenty along the way.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's part of learning, really, isn't it?
100%. If you don't make mistakes, are you really learning? Are you getting out of your comfort zone? Are you growing?
Absolutely. We're probably not going fast enough, are we? If the mistakes are a part of growth, I feel. And from a business perspective, what are your key learnings about growing a successful business, Jackie?
You've got to not be afraid to make a mistake.
Yes.
You have to like jump out of the plane and hope the parachute's going to open.
Yeah.
But you've got to prepare to make sure that the parachute's going to open,
Yep.
and that is learning how to do things, mitigating the risk. If you're doing it yourself, knowing how to work your numbers. It's not just seeing a property that looks cheap on Rightmove and going and buying it and hope it's going to turn out. You need to understand what the costs involved.
Yep.
Is it a good buy? Is there demand? What's the future value going to be? Are you going to make money on it? Are you going to lose money on it? So, it's mitigating the risk as much as possible.
Yes.
But you can't sit on the fence forever.
No.
You just, I mean, at the very first property we bought, I'm not going to say it was a disaster, but at the time it felt like a disaster. I hadn't seen it. Steve viewed it. We bought it, and then I saw it, and I thought, oh my God, he's bought a brothel. It was like painted scarlet with black painted stairs up to the attic and a 10-watt light bulb.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that's kind of what I said. But it'd be an 8 grand refurb. It'll be fine. So
Yep.
we bought it for 57,000 on a mortgage. I think we put in obviously 25% of that. We were 8 grand on the refurb, allegedly. Um the we had disasters along the way in terms of doing the refurb. The day before the tenant was supposed to move in, we put all the water on to test the central heating, and the plumber hadn't connected the pipes.
Oh,
So the water came down through the light fitting onto the new laminate floor in the lounge. The day the tenant was moving in, we're still painting the skirting boards because the decorator was so slow.
oh
So we were
goodness.
like, my daughter and I, like helping out, trying to paint the skirting. On it went, we couldn't refinance then as quickly as we planned because the tenant hadn't been in long enough. By the time the tenant was in long enough, we were considered portfolio landlords, so we couldn't refinance until it'd been 2 years. At 2 years, we couldn't refinance because it wasn't worth it. It was going to cost us 6 grand to get out 20. And on and on and on it went. And at every point, it seemed like a disaster. The refurb was 16 grand, so double what we expected.
Right.
But you know what? When we refinanced at 5 years, because we had a 5-year fix on it, we'd put in 33 grand, I think. The property was valued at 110. That was about 15 grand below where it should have been
Yep.
because the valuer based it on what they felt was market rent, even though we had a 5-year contract for social housing, £100 a month more than what they thought,
Right.
but they wouldn't take that into consideration. So we refinanced, we got all our money back out and some. We've got equity sitting in that property, and we've had 20 grand's worth of cash flow, not rent, but cash flow. We've had back for our 33 grand over 100
Brilliant.
grand.
Wow.
So for that disaster,
Brilliant.
who wouldn't do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously not having the knowledge that you have, and but, despite, as you say, making the odd mistake, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I think property investment in general is a very attractive mechanism for investment. It's just, as you say, knowing what you
Yeah,
need to know.
it's very forgiving. It is very
Yes,
forgiving because if you make a mistake on crypto, you make a mistake on stocks and shares, you literally can end up with nothing
yes,
because if a company goes bust, the shares are worth nothing. If you make a mistake on property, it might not be worth quite as what you thought it might be
yeah,
worth,
but it's
but you've still got the bricks and mortar standing
yeah,
there. It's still tangible. You can hug it, you can kiss it. At some point, it is going to go up in value
yeah,
and you are not going to lose.
yeah,
I mean, property goes up on average 7.3% a year. Yeah. There has never been a 10-year period when property is worth less at the end of the 10 years
yeah,
than the start. Even when you take all those crashes into consideration,
yeah,
pick any 10 years, and average property prices are worth more at the end than the beginning.
yeah,
So you've just got to be patient. It's not a quick get rich quick scheme.
yeah.
It's if you're in it for the long run, you're going to make money. And that's why when I go back to the footballers, the sports people, the sooner they can start,
Yeah.
the more they can make. You look at Robbie Fowler. Robbie Fowler back in the 80s, 90s, probably 90s. I'm probably doing him an injustice saying the
I
80s.
would think so. Yes, definitely.
Look at the 90s, and he literally has bought bog standard houses that normal people want to live in. Two, three-bed houses around Wigan, St Helens, Liverpool. And he's built a £40 million property portfolio. Or sorry, his net wealth is 40 million. It's probably not all quite from property, but the biggest chunk is
Yeah.
because in those days footballers didn't earn that kind of money.
Yes.
There's the good old, was it? We all live in a Robbie Fowler house. Is that not the way it goes? I think that was the song on the Man City terraces at the
Brilliant.
time. So, the sooner they start,
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of
the
sense.
yeah, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. And Jackie, I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
So as I said before, we mentor for Aspire Property Group, for
Yep.
Aspire Education. They Aspire as a company was started by Jamie York and Dan Buchan when they were like 19 back in the
Yep.
good old days. I'd say they're not much older now. They're both what 34. So they've been going a while, but
Yep.
they've taken that property business from losing to a £10 million business. They Anything that there is to know about property, they know about it. They've been inspirational to us
Brilliant.
in giving us confidence,
Yep.
giving us knowledge, inspiring us to take action to do stuff.
Yep.
And that's both property and business because you have to have business acumen to build that size of business that quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. And a robust business as well. And a lot of the business teachings have been really good for us in terms of scaling what we do and having the confidence to do it.
Great.
I mean, we own our offices now. We bought our offices. We rent part of the offices out to another company.
Yep.
Um, but I would never, ever have thought we could have done that before we got involved with them.
Yeah.
It's how to do that and how to negotiate, how to make sure it's a win-win for everybody. Because whatever you do, it has to be a win-win for
Yes.
everybody.
Yep.
You know, Winning by treading on other people is just not the way to do it.
No,
It's
absolutely.
it's in for a quick book and out again. and you just don't have longevity and you don't
No,
have consistent clients. And for me,
no,
that's not the way to do business. I want
no.
to work with people for the long term.
Couldn't agree. No, absolutely couldn't agree more. And whether it's from those guys or any other sources, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using a lot about business or life in general?
I think the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things they've taught us, is mindset. And it's that mindset of if you think you can or you think you can't, you're going to be right.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because people get in their own way. The biggest thing that gets in people's way, I always say you've got an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other.
Yes,
And the angel's saying you can, you can, you can. And the devil's there going, who do you think you are? Why do you think you can do that? And for most people, the devil's louder. The thing is, like, get rid of that devil and start listening to the angel. And I think one of the big game changers for me was a book called The Magic. So if you've heard of The Secret,
yep,
which I think is probably the most well known, the most popular one,
yes,
that's great. But the lady who wrote The Secret wrote The Magic. And for me, that really was a mindset changer because it's literally a how-to book. You know, day one, there's a little bit of a short chapter. Day one, do this. Day two, a bit more about something else. At the end of it, do this and what you did on day one. By the end of day 30, you now have habits of gratitude, positivity, being grateful, being thankful. And being in that headspace really has made such a difference. I mean, people used to say about it when we first started in property and all like formation and visualization and all that. And I'll bet it's a bit tree hugging, it's a bit woo woo for me. But honestly, the amount of things that have come through and changed for us by thinking positively
yep,
and being grateful for what we've got
yep,
is phenomenal.
brilliant.
It really is. Because I think when you're in a positive mindset space, it delivers because you now start thinking, what can I do? How can I make this right? How can I make this happen?
Yes,
As opposed to crying in a bucket in a corner that it just hadn't quite gone right.
yeah,
I would encourage anybody and everybody to do what you can to think positively
yep,
because the world we are in, there's so much negativity pushed out there, so much um, things happening. And at the end of the day, you can't change what's outside your sphere. You can only change what you have control of.
yep,
So make the most of what you can control and let the rest get on with it. And what will happen.
brilliant.
And then you make decisions based on that.
No, mate, absolute perfect sense. And what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Jackie?
A grumpy old bag. I think confidence has come from it.
Yep,
I think confidence has come through what I've done in life and the people that I've dealt with, the work that I've done.
yes,
Um, at school, I was really lucky with where I went to school and what I did. I would never, ever sort of downgrade that. It was like, is shy the right word? I want particularly the kid going, yeah, me, 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 me. And, when we were talking before about British public generally are very bad about, yeah, I can do this. I'm good at this. We all kind of underplay what we're good at, what we can do. And I think over the years, I've just got better at saying, do you know what? Yeah, I am good at this. I can do this. I can
brilliant.
help people because I know what I'm talking about.
Yep,
And I know that ethically, what I do, I'm doing right for everybody. And having that confidence to say, yeah, I'm good at what I do is, I think it's something you grow into,
yeah,
you know.
brilliant.
maybe that's not as right these days in the days of social media and influencers and everything else. I don't know, but I don't think people take enough responsibility for their own circumstances, their own
Yep.
actions, their own lives. And they look at other people going, well, it's all right for them. People say to us, well, it's okay for you, you've got a portfolio. Didn't. I've only got one because I've made the effort to
Yeah.
know how to do it and to make it happen.
Yes.
So, you can do anything
Yeah.
if you have the mind to do it. As long as you're prepared to get up, work hard, and put your mind to it, if you focus, you can do whatever you want.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I think it's just how, yeah, it's that belief. I think there's a massive difference between can I and how can I, in
Yeah,
terms of asking my own that question. I think that's one of my
yeah,
favourite phrases.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Jackie, we have a phrase in Action Coach or a description of a true business, which is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners. And I'm just keen to know
yeah,
your thoughts on that as a definition.
yeah. Like our holidays.
Sorry,
So we quite like our holidays. So being
great,
out of the business for a while
brilliant,
is definitely something that we look to do. And we have people here that hold the fort while we're away. And I
great,
think it's important that one, you can move away from the business because it gives you time to work on the business, not in the
absolutely,
business.
yeah,
And you need that headspace to do that.
yes,
Um, and you need that downtime to get your energy back as well.
agreed,
But business doesn't stop. And whilst we might go on holiday and do stuff, I still kind of keep in touch. But I know that the people here, I mean, we have an ops manager who literally came from COVID times, straight from university, had never
right,
had a job in her life and has developed beyond belief. She's now so good and can so do what we do. I mean, I read things that she's written, I'm going, have I written that? Because she like sounds like me. Um, and developing people's really important. That there's a book called Mindset. It's by a lady called Carol Dweck, and it's very, very good at showing companies with growth mindset and companies with the opposite.
yeah,
And the ones with the opposite never grow. You have to have that growth mindset, which means involving your staff and developing them because we can't all be brilliant at everything.
yeah,
And I think it's Richard Branson who says, well, actually, I'm not very good at very much, but I surround myself with people who
yes,
are good at what they do.
absolutely.
And having the confidence in yourself to feel that the people around you can know more than you is actually really important because, you know, pick the specialists in their areas. And for us, you know, we're not a conveyancer, we're not a solicitor. I can't do that. We have to have confidence in the people
Yeah,
that our power team that we work with to do that. I don't have the time to learn to do it.
yeah,
And actually, I don't have the desire to learn to do
yes,
it.
yeah,
I just need to know enough to know what I need to know to make it happen for them to do it. And I think the same is with all your staff. It's important to engage them in the business, engage them in how the business can grow, what ideas they've got,
yeah.
because they might have an idea that you've not even thought of that can be awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a real golden team. It's really good to, as you say, to encourage people to contribute to the way we move forward. So, looking forward, then, Jackie, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Um, I can't talk about it, but we have something bubbling under the radar at the moment,
Brilliant.
which could be quite big for us and could also help an awful lot of people. So really, really hopeful that's going to come off.
Oh, great.
Um, and then the challenge with that is going to be having enough people to deal with.
Right. Wonderful.
So it's going to have the systems in place because without systems, you lose sight of everything. So it's
Yes.
making sure we've got the right systems in place for that, making sure we've got the right people in place for that, because there's nothing worse than growing quickly and then not being able to give the service that you want to give to people. You can't promise and not deliver.
Yes.
That's just a bad business. You've got to deliver what you promise. What's the
Yeah.
phrase? It's better to under promise and over deliver
Yeah.
than the other way around. So we've got to make sure we've got the right things in place
Yeah.
that we can support that coming through. Um, but yeah, it's that's a nice challenge to have.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you you will always get challenges, whatever you do,
Yeah.
and some will be bigger and some will be worse than others. But like Jamie's always said, actually, you never get delivered a challenge you can't actually deal with. And what you do is grow into dealing with that challenge that helps you as a person get out of your comfort zone and grow. And the next challenge could be bigger, could be worse, but then you'll grow into that one too.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. Um, Jackie, it's been fascinating to talk to you today, and thank you for sharing so much about what you do and what you've learned. I think it's been really
Yeah.
valuable for people watching. And for anyone that would like to get in touch with you or Aireworth Property Services, what's the best way of making contact?
Okay, so we're all over social media. So I think people probably sick to see I've seen my face in a lot of places, but on LinkedIn, Jackie Collier Property, on Instagram, Jackie Collier Property, on Facebook, my personal page, Jackie Collier, or Airworth Property Services page. And we also have for the sports people, Pro Sports Property Partners on all of those different social media channels as well. So um, email jackie@airworthproperty.co.uk. So happy to talk to anybody. If anybody wants to talk about investing, if anybody wants to talk about learning how to do it, happy to talk to people on both fronts because the more we can help people, the better for everybody.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, look, as I say, it's been great talking to you, and it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just look at the next stages, especially the thing that's obviously bubbling away. You
Yeah,
might be able to share
yeah,
with us then. But for now, thank you
yeah.
so much for your time.
Thank you. No, I'd love to have it again in another 6 to 12 months. So
Brilliant.
it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you. We'll make that happen. Brilliant. Thank you.